guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. So, it was recently World Mental Health Day, and in honor of that, / my inability to sleep, I have decided to wear this sweatshirt, which is like the only thing I can sleep in right now. So, first let me explain. So last week I said I couldn't sleep, and I still can't, but the closest that I can come to an actual full night's sleep, I have basically, what I do is I put on I put on as many sweatpants as I can, like sweat things, and then I swaddle myself in as many blankets as I can find. I'm swaddling myself like an infant. And then I wake up periodically, but I go back to sleep. So I did that for 2 nights, and then I was like, maybe I'm fine now. And put on my regular pajamas. Up at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling. So I've basically been living in this sweatshirt, and this is my update about my mental health. It exists in this sweatshirt. So it says, I call it my evil wizard because of this evil wizard. And it says, it's lonely at the top, but I like the view. And it's got these headless snakes on the sleeves. And basically when I bought it, Mr. Blake was like, oh my God, what is that? And I was like, this is where I live now, and I think he's gotten used to it, so there we go. I talk about mental health all the time, so I don't really think I need to go into it right now, but just a reminder that you don't have to be happy all the time. You know, I think we're striving for, I think there's such a variety of hot takes about mental health, and there are always going to be people who think that you should just like power through and just like take a positive attitude or something, as if that's all mental illness is just like negativity. And not even mental illness, just we have difficult times. We are human. We're deeply, deeply flawed mortal creatures. And I think it's fair to honor your feelings. And sometimes those feelings are sadness, or they are anger, or they are resentment. Not that that's relevant to anything I'm feeling currently, or fear or insecurity. These things are all normal to feel. You are allowed to live in your feelings. You're allowed to try to get better. If you don't like the feelings you're living in, you're allowed to ask for help. It isn't weak to ask for help. I think that that's something that I often have to remind myself, that it is not a failure to reach out. I think that a lot of people don't recognize that mental health is so embedded in your entire life, and having a complete life and a full relationship with people around you and your family or your significant other, all of this is all of that is dependent on you taking care of your mental health. So whatever you need to do to take care of it, I hope that you do it, and I hope that you feel comfortable doing it, asking for help if you need it. There is no normal. There is no such thing as normal. Your experience is just your experience. So yeah, I don't know if you needed to hear that. I am always saying it, so if you're here, then you've probably heard it before, but there we are, doing what I can. Anyway, I've mentioned this before, but my Halloween tradition with Aurora Sinistra is we make Death in the Afternoon, which is a cocktail that you can find in Lovely Tangled Vices. It's right here. It's the official beverage of the Tau Kappa Mu sorority, so that's obviously very important. And we watch Steel Magnolias, which is a weird choice. It's a weird choice. I don't really know why that happened. I don't remember why it happened literally at all, but it's a great movie. I always cry at the end. So anyway, this is a very female tradition, as you've probably picked up on. So the name of this tradition is GAL-loween. It's like Galentine's Day, but witchier. That witches only. And this Halloween is Lovely Tangled Vices. Lovely Tangled Vices is... It's LTV's anniversary. So LTV is 1 year old. That's crazy. I am still writing a prequel that will probably come out at the latter half of next year. And this Halloween, La Petite Mort is coming out. I'm really excited about it. It is going to be available in more places because it is being published by Which Way Press. The cover is now available if you want to check it out. It's on my website. I'm really excited about it. It's one of my favorite pieces by Lilith Mora. I did technically do the design, which is not important except for the pun. That's me. That's my pun work. I'm very good at words. So yeah. GAL-loween. I have one more thing to say, which is that I have finished the script. I know last week I didn't sound very excited, but that is mostly because I was sleepy. And, you know, when I'm doing something new, it's kind of it's hard to talk about something that's not finished yet. I always am very conscious of, like, I don't want to jinx things. But now the script is done. I think it's funny. So thank you guys for your support. It really means a lot to me, and I'm excited for you guys to get to see more about it. Okay, so jumping into questions. Hi, Olivie. I hope you can help me. I hope I can help you too. I'm a 20-something woman living in a big city with a wonderful job, wonderful friends, wonderful parents, and siblings. That's impressive. I would never call my siblings wonderful. Don't tell them I said that. They have their moments. You get it. Somehow, I've been single all my life. I'm a bit of an introvert and do not mind being alone, but I do not have problems in making new friends. Now that one of my friends is getting engaged, I'm wondering what's wrong with me. I want a boyfriend. I wish for all the things my friends have, but it's never worked for me. Please help me. Okay, so this is tricky because I can't, there's a lot of stuff I don't know, like why you've never had a boyfriend before. There's not a lot that I can speak to, but I will tell you there is no, this timeline is arbitrary. The path that your friends are on is not your path. You don't have to feel like you're behind because you're not. All this getting married in your 20s or whatever, it's not relevant to anything. It's not like that's the only time you're going to find someone. That's just the time that many people have conditioned themselves to settle down. And that doesn't have to be your life. That probably shouldn't be your life. The truth is that if it were not you wanting a boyfriend, it would be, I hate my job, or I feel behind in my career, or my family and I don't get along, my siblings don't understand me. There's any variety of things that could be going on in your life. And naturally you are going to focus on the thing that's missing. Right now you feel like something is missing. Whether or not that's true is kind of up for debate, but I think you can take your mindset and just try to change it a little, just in the sense that it's great to want someone in your life. It's perfectly fine to be open to the possibility of a romantic relationship, but to feel like there's a hole because you don't have one is not what I would recommend for you. I have found that a lot of life is just a series of ironies. Kind of the moment that you want it, it's not going to happen, and the moment you forget about it is when it probably pops up inconveniently in your life. Also, my shoe just broke. What was I saying? Did I mention that I have a zit in my under eye shadows? My skin is a disaster, as you might guess, from me not sleeping. You should sleep, drink water, and all that. I've been doing very little of anything to take care of myself, and it is starting to show. I'm distracted. So, your question, can I help you? Yes, I can help you realize that this thing that you feel you're missing it's just like a weird conditioned response to the fact that people around you are doing one thing and you're having this like sort of existential crisis about why your life doesn't look like theirs. But you are under no obligation to make your life look like somebody else's. This is your life. I get that maybe you want companionship, but it's not going to satisfy you unless it's the right person, the right relationship at the right time. And maybe the right person is not here yet. Maybe the right person is very busy with their job that they love and are not thinking about these things. Or maybe they're busy with their job that they hate and they're a mess and they can't meet you yet. And I know, I don't think there's I think there's a right person for every stage in life. You guys know this. You read my stuff, I assume, so you know how I feel about relationships. But the point is, it's not this. It's not something you can force into being. So you're doing all the right things. You're focusing, you are recognizing what's good in your life. And now I think you just have to let go of the idea that it has to follow some sort of pattern. If that means muting wedding pictures on Instagram, then maybe that's something that you have to do. It's something that you're going to do for your mental health or whatever. I don't really know what it's going to take for you to not be so aware of what you seem to consider like a glaring weakness, because it's not a weakness. There is not something wrong with you. It is you haven't met whoever it is yet. There is some reason that you're not in a relationship right now. And I do not think that is you or your fault. So let go of that. Focus on making yourself, this is so stupid, you're going to hate this, but you can focus on making yourself happy. One of the pitfalls to being in a relationship is that there's a lot of stuff you have to do with the other person, or that you can't do because the other person doesn't like. Just one of the flaws of being in a relationship is that you can't do 100% what makes you happy. But you can. So focus on that. Do the things you've always wanted to do. Read the books you like. Watch the movies you like. This is all stuff that, like, it seems like such a small thing until all of a sudden you have to balance your life with somebody else's. And knowing what you like is also going to help you draw people into your life that are the same sort of vibe. I hate everything I'm saying. It's so cliche. It's really hard to talk about how to find a relationship because I don't really want you to go out and look for a relationship. I've said before the Catherine Ryan quote that men are taught to be someone, women are taught to find someone. Don't be the woman who's trying to find someone. Be the woman who is someone. Be someone. You are complete on your own. And I understand why you want someone in your life. I understand why you would crave that. But at the same time, you can't feel like you're failing because you don't have it. That's the part that I want to stomp out of you. You're on whatever metric is used for women, you don't have to use that. You can ignore that. Hopefully that's freeing. And hopefully that helps. Hi, Olivie. I want to say thanks so much for sharing the worlds inside your mind. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for wandering inside. It's not always safe in there. I am so excited for you about the short film screenplay. Thank you. I'm excited too. It's called Boys Will Be Boys, by the way, which is slightly subverted from the way that's usually used. More than slightly subverted, but anyway. It was so funny you mentioned in your latest video that no one needed your help last week because it reminded me of a question rolling around in my brain about motivation and resisting fatalism. So I thought I'd reach out and ask your thoughts. This is kind of gratuitous personal information, to borrow my phrase. I do say that a lot. But I recently got some blood work done, my first time as an adult. Blood work is crazy. That was how I learned that I have like very high sugar levels and extremely low salt levels. I would never have guessed that. My mom's got a real big fear of like salt. I think she has like high cholesterol and high blood pressure, so she had kind of assumed the same thing for me. And then I had like dangerously low salt levels and I have to salt all my food. Anyway, my primary wrote me saying my thyroid and vitamin D levels were below normal, so I Googled, LOL, symptoms of low TSH and vitamin D and found their link to fatigue, weight gain, irritability, issues focusing, depression, etc. And at first I was relieved, like finally, now I know why I have all these problems. Basically, my question is, as someone who works really hard, is that me? Yeah, okay. How do you prevent yourself from falling into a thought pattern of excuses? I'm so often tugged around by impulses and feelings. I would prefer not to moments, and I don't want these numbers and hormones to give me something to blame. Like, there's an imbalance in my body, so I'm going to give myself a pass today. I tried, but I guess the trouble focusing symptom is acting up. Too bad. Okay, I get it. I mean, yeah, I think that at first, when I first got diagnosed with bipolar, it was kind of the same thing where it's like, is this thing that I'm doing a symptom of an illness that I have, or is it just a normal mood? And I think eventually when you come to terms with this being your life and your reality, you just sort of understand that it feels like a crutch because it's a new piece of information. You're like, oh, now I have this explanation to lean on. But eventually you realize that it's not new information. It's always been true. And so you have to not make excuses. You have to allow yourself to acknowledge when you're not at maximum capacity. And I think it's kind of a process of getting to know yourself. So you get to know the difference between I am doing everything I can, but I can't today. Like today, I'm tired and I have to let myself rest. That feeling is distinct from I could keep going, but I don't really feel like it. And I think at the outset, it seems like these are the same sensation, But the more that you're honest with yourself and kind of analyzing yourself and how these are the distinctions between them, then you have an easier time recognizing, okay, no. If you're worried about not having motivation, then I would go ahead and take the presumption. Why don't you start with the baseline presumption of I can work harder and I'm making excuses for myself. And then, so there's going to be some times when you can push through that, and then sometimes when you can't. And when you notice that you can't, that's when you have to that's when you have to basically forgive yourself and be like, okay, let's note this in the minutes. I have recently started tracking my mood. I track my mood from 1 to 5, which is basically depression to mania. My productivity from 1 to 5, which I don't know if you can believe this, but it correlates very strongly to my mood. And then also my perception of how well I'm doing, which can vary drastically. And I also keep track of my period and the moon on this because why not? So yeah, so anyway, so I noticed a lot of these trends of I'm physically very tired, my productivity is very low, I feel like what I'm producing is also very low. It's kind of when all these things align, it's like, okay, I have to give myself a break because look at what's going on here. There's just overworking myself at this point is not actually going to come up, there's not going to be a good outcome here. Not that I necessarily think you need to be that clinical with yourself, but I think you need to know yourself a little better. You are obviously young. This is your first adult blood work thing, and you don't really know yourself until you've been living with yourself in a very specific, cognizant sort of way for a long time, which doesn't really happen until maybe your mid-20s. I think that's why people have the quarter life crisis. That's when you kind of realize that this is who you are, this is what you're living with for the rest of your life, and it kind of becomes this bizarre existential awakening of oh God, this is what I am. And I also think that's why a lot of relationships either abruptly speed up or they end in the mid-20s. That's an aside. But anyway, so I think that the idea here is once you know yourself well enough, you'll be able to tell the difference between I'm making excuses and I genuinely need a break. But it really depends on you and on you being honest with yourself. If this is the kind of thing that you're able to discuss with a therapist or something like that, that's something you could do. Having someone else, if you're the kind of person who needs someone else to keep you accountable, that is a great thing that therapy provides. Otherwise, you can do a mood chart like I do, or you can just, journaling can be a great thing. Writing down how you feel and how that changes from day to day can help you figure out how real this is. I think that's the thing. That was the thing about my diagnosis, is it made me question what was real and what was in my head. And then eventually I started to realize that what's in my head is my reality. So I have to live in accordance with my reality. So when I was in law school, that meant having to be medicated because otherwise it is too difficult to live in my reality and also in other people's reality. So I had to make my reality more like theirs. I no longer have to do that, so I'm not on medication anymore. There's probably something you could do if you wanted. That would be something you'd have to consult with a doctor. It might be changes in your diet. Thyroid problems like that are also not super uncommon. I think I also have a little bit of a thyroid imbalance that I don't pay attention to. There's only so many problems you can keep track of at a time. Also, doctors are obligated to tell you these things when they're too low, but too low falls on a pretty major scale of slightly too low to disastrously too low. So these are possible reasons that you felt this way, but you could also be you could be retrofitting your life to fit these possible symptoms. Never self-diagnose. This is something I say all the time. Usually sometimes people will approach me in private and say, oh, I think I have depression, I think I have this, and I'm like, okay, I cannot help you there. Only a medical professional can help you with that, and you should not assume that because you fit some things that are on a checklist, this is you, So that's just a reminder. I'm sure you have discussed this with your primary, I hope you have discussed this with your primary doctor, because if there are diet changes involved, then that's something that you probably want someone to consult on. My sister is a nutritionist. I wonder if she knows anything about it. I wonder if she knows anything is a question I ask myself a lot. I love my sister. Anyway, so yeah. Someone sent me a very long message that was very appreciative and great, but they asked me a very specific question, which is how to read Basile from How to Win Friends and Influence People. So the French vampire. They are reading How to Win out loud to their sister, I believe, and so they asked me how to speak his dialogue. So I apologize to any French people who are going to be insulted by this, but basically Basile and Marius and Marcel, they are all speaking in an extremely exaggerated French accent, and that's basically it. They're just, all their vowels are elongated, and I'm mostly making fun of the French. But that's fine, because the French are like, they can take it, you know, imperialism. So anyway, I did pluck some lines. So most of these are from chapter 35, I Love You, Vampire Son. So wait, we cannot drain him. There are rules. We are not animals. This is a disaster. Marius, clearly you are letard. Where is Basile? Basile, go and get us le cup fantastique. Off you go, prisoner, back to your little nightmare. Spectacular, stupéfiant, sensational. These are all good, yes? That's essentially how you read them. My apologies to the French. In any case, actually, this is reminding me that I'm actually kind of excited about. I don't know how much of a role I'm going to have in casting our short film, but it has newly become very important to me that the correct people get cast. You think that'd be obvious? Well, it's because people always ask me who I face cast for things, and the thing is that it's not about the face, it's about how things are delivered, which I've never had to worry about before. It's really more about the voice than the face. So now that I'm realizing that people are going to play the main characters in this film, it's like, oh my gosh, they have to be the right people. They have to have the right mannerisms. And I just have I never see a face, but I always hear a voice. I hear voices. So there's that very normal thing. I know that this week also is I think Coming Out Day, National Coming Out Day. Maybe it's more than national. I guess I just want to take an opportunity to kind of reiterate what I said earlier about how there's no correct timeline. There's also no correct way to be a human being. We are all disasters at it in our own way. So hopefully that is an uplifting thought. There's nobody that's going through this having like the normal experience. There is no person who's just doing everything correctly. That it wouldn't even make sense. All of this stuff is just based on social norms that vary wildly depending on time and culture and historical context. So if you feel like there's something weird about you, maybe you're a time traveler. That's the thing that I think is really crazy about social trends, is they don't just, it's not like things go like this. Things don't just like progress in one direction. Like sexuality especially, it's kind of all over the place. There are periods in time where it's much stricter and periods when it is much looser. It's kind of like climate change with the ice ages and the warming. It's just it's not, in this case climate change we did that. But naturally, things are constantly in flux. So if you feel like you don't match what the world tells you you're supposed to look like, that's just what this world tells you you're supposed to look like. This probably isn't even the good one. So yeah. I don't know if that helps. It probably doesn't. But anyway, that's all for now. I don't think I have anything new to say. Mr. Blake's cycling season has started, so I'm a little bit busier, but I don't think... Oh, no, okay, this is another thing. So this year, I know it feels way too early to talk about this, but it isn't, unfortunately. So this year for the Olivie Advent, if you're new here, I do something for the 24 days, December 1st through 24th, and then usually my Advent story posts on the 25th. Anyway, the first 2 years I did the Real World series, which was basically a satirical take on reality television with the canon Hogwarts years and then their years working in the Ministry of Magic. And then last year I did a story that was set in the 1920s in New York. It was basically a Great Gatsby, but Harry Potter. And this year what I have decided to do is neither of those things. So this year what I would like to do is 24 drabbles, hopefully 1,000 word or less one-shots. And I'm super definitely going to go over that word threshold, which is why I kind of want to like get started early. So basically, I am going to do a call for prompts. You can send me a pairing or a song lyric or an actual request. I will warn you that the more specific your request is, the less likely I am to pick it. One thing that someone did mention is they asked me if I would ever write anything more in the Commoner's Guide universe, and the truth is probably not, but I might do a Christmas drabble for it. They do not have to be Christmas themed. If you want something Christmas themed, you'll be seeing a lot of Christmas stuff, so I would imagine that at least one of them will be. It's more of just an open call. It has to be simple plots because I have to try to get it done in 1,000 words. I would like a variation of pairings, but I imagine most of them will be Dramini. If I'm being honest about what I would like, I'd love to write another Perfume Pansy. I guess that's the only one I had right off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm not sure yet if they're all going to be in Amortentia. If you didn't know, I separate Amortentia and Draft a Living Death based on theme. So if it has a happy ending and it's like pretty lighthearted, it goes in Amortentia. If it's sexually explicit or a darker theme, it goes in Draft a Living Death. These are going to be Christmas time. It's going to be Christmas, so I'm not anticipating that people are going to ask for anything dark. But if I do write anything explicitly sexual, I might not. Yeah. So do you see what I'm saying? I think you see what I'm saying. Point is, I haven't officially called for this yet, but I will probably at the end of October or the beginning of November. So if there's something you'd like me to write, please think about it. Okay, now that's all. Now I'm pretty sure that's all. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to me babble. I hope that I have been helpful to you and your life. Anyway. So I'm reading Jane Eyre, and like, what is the deal with Mr. Rochester? He's like so weird. He's like a very mansplaining white boss. Like one of his first questions was, "Do you find me handsome?" He's so specific to one type of dude that still exists that it's a little unsettling. Anyway, this is to me, Olivie Blake, not writing, and I'll see you next week.